That was a prospect for 14 months. And at the end of it, Pat just got some hair up his ass, and he told me, hey, you're just not cutting it, so we're going to send you down the road, sit out a year, come on back and try it again.
To this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got PeeWee. What's up, PeeWee?
What's up, Staxx?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah, things are great over here. I'm excited to have you on. Been anticipating this.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a really interesting story. I wanted to bring it to the people. I seen you on with Mooch and a couple other people, and I was like, I gotta talk to this guy.
Mooch is a good guy.
Yeah.
You know, and it was funny how I reached out to him because him being in the club he was in and the club I was in, I mean, we hated each other, you know?
Yeah.
Even though I personally didn't know the man at the time. And then I saw him do an interview with that Rick guy. And then he did an interview. And I just wrote on the bottom, I said, hey, Mooch, you're a good speaker. You know what I mean? It was a good podcast, and I enjoyed it. And then he reached out to me, and I reached back to him, and then bam, bam. Now we talk all the time, every day.
Yeah, I've had him on twice. I've had him on. Yeah, great kid. He's been through a lot too.
Yep. Yeah, he has. And it's funny, you know, because he even said, he goes, man, our worlds are like almost the same. How we ended up like in the clubs we ended up, and then just to hate each other because it was the thing to do for the club, you know?
That's one of the questions I got for you. So when you join this club, do you assume all the beefs that they have?
Yeah.
No matter what, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And yeah, that's exactly the way it works, brother. It's crazy because, you know, I come from the Midwest. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Milwaukee's all outlaws. You know, they're the dominant club there, and they got a bunch of charters all over Wisconsin. But they're the big 1% club. They run Milwaukee and the state of Wisconsin, so they're pretty big there. And I've been around them, so you know, I had a couple of them that were really honest to God, good friends of mine. You know, that I'd actually go to their houses and visit them and talk to them, but the majority of them I didn't trust, you know what I mean? And I didn't feel comfortable around them. You know, you always felt like something was going to go down, you know? So I was just looking for something bigger and better, man. And I was in a Sinners motorcycle club when I first got into motorcycles. It was probably the end of my 20s. I got involved with the Sinners Motorcycle Club, and I was there about 10 years. And man, when I first saw my first Hell's Angel standing there, I was like, that's what I want to be, man. I saw that patch, and I was just, I want to be that. But the funny part is, what we're getting back to with the Mooch is, you know, he did the wrestling in school like I did. You know, I was a state champ in wrestling. And so we both did the high school wrestling. He's still in the jiu-jitsu, but he's a lot younger than me, you know?
Yeah.
And the martial arts and all that stuff that I did that. Oh, I only did that, to be honest with you, Billy, because I like to box. You know, I started boxing when I was 11. So I got hands, right? So I could throw real good. with anybody. So the guy goes, "Why don't you let me teach you how to kick?" And come on, bro. I was at the time, 6'8", 450 pounds. I was like, I can't kick. Yeah, you can. Boy, he had me so loosen up and kicking and kicking. I was kicking over my head. I was, giving those wheelhouse kicks to people in the side of their face, and I couldn't believe I was doing it.
It's like an extra weapon you got. You didn't even know, right?
Now I do it. I tear my groin out, be laying on the
ground. Yeah, you think you can do it, but your body tells you no, right?
Right. There's a time where it cuts it off, but your brain keeps telling you, I got it, man. But yeah, so that's what me and Mooch talked about. Pretty much, like we had the same interest in the same shit that we liked, and it's weird how you go different paths. And now we're out of that element, and we're friends. I'm sure that pisses a lot of people off, but I don't care, man. I don't care what anybody thinks, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you dedicated your life to this club, right?
I did.
And
I did. I mean,
what you were the president of the Sinners, weren't you?
Yeah, for 10 years.
So what made you leave there? Because weren't you dedicated to the Sinners? And how come you didn't try to do a patch over? I was just curious because when I watched the documentary on you, they said that you were kind of pushing back when you were doing your prospecting phase because they thought that because you came from being the president to you didn't want to prospect. Is that
right? He was saying that me and him used to bump heads, and I don't know why, because personally, a personable guy he is, and then sometimes he could be a real asshole. You know what I mean? It depends on his mood swings. I know exactly what they were, bro. It's he was heavy into steroids at one time, and he's lifting. So did I do it, where a guy's squeezing a ball in a store, and I scream out, "Do that again, I'll smash him face in," It's just, it's the roids that make, that roid rage. But he would flip out like over the stupidest little shit, but we're beyond that. I mean, I went to his going away party when he was going to prison. The sad thing is, I think he was already working with the police when he had his going away party, because he was facing 20 years. And this is Pat Matter, the president of Minnesota. And he's facing 20 years. And I think he was close. He had to be close at that time. I was getting like in my late 40s, and he was only like a couple years older than me. He might have been in his early 50s. I'm going to guess,
Yeah.
So when he got that 20 years thrown at him, hey, for anybody, Staxx, that's a lot of time, man, so that's all on him why he decided to take a different route and work with the police.
But you were around when that happened, right?
Well, actually, but I was in a different charter, and I'll explain that to you. I had believe it or not, bro, I hung around. I was a hang around, not a prospect. I was a hang around from like 1991 to 1993. And I lived in Milwaukee, and I would have to drive 6 hours up to Minnesota, hang out, clean up, set up for parties, do all that kind of stuff. And then when Sunday came, I had to fly back to Milwaukee. And I remember, I just got to throw this in there because I know you'll laugh. One of the guys, he's dead now. His name was Tank. He was a big boy. He was a good dude. He had the big, massive beard, like the big Grizzly Adam beard. It was huge.
Yeah.
And he was just a big guy. Here, to give you an example, I gave him a belt that I had. It was a 54-inch waist belt, and it wouldn't fit him. So his gut was like, he was out there, man. And I pull up in the car, and I had this big old Lincoln Town car. And I pulled up in it, and I get out of the car. But coming to Wisconsin, bro, up toward northern Wisconsin, because, leaving Milwaukee, I had to head north to Minnesota. So when I was going like through Eau Claire and stuff like that, Bro, it was snowing like a son of a bitch. I mean, snowing, coming down. And then when I get to Minneapolis, hey, they're all out there sitting on their bikes. And, to them, it was a chilly day, but it wasn't cold enough to snow or anything. But it would have been a son of a bitch me flying down the road on the bike, in the snow, because it was sticking to the ground and I could feel it in my car.
Yeah.
So when I got there, you would have cracked up. I pulled up and I got out of the car and he looks over at me and he goes, "What the fuck? You come up here, you want to be one of us, and you're driving a car?" And he points to his back. "That MC back there doesn't mean more continentals." Bro, I just wanted to start laughing when he said it, but, I had to be all serious and go, "Yeah, okay, Tank, I said, "Boy, I came through, it was snowing." He goes, "So what?" Oh, it would have been so what if I would have been like flying on my ass, going down the road. But yeah, that's the only thing. He wasn't a guy of many words, but that's one thing he said. But anyway, I was going up there all the time, and then I'd have to leave Sunday to head back because I had a job,
and they wouldn't let you. They wouldn't let you sit through the meetings or anything yet.
No,
right?
no, you never do that until you're a member.
Yeah.
But they were doing this with me, Staxx, because they didn't really know me, bro. Like when I walked up to one of them at the drag strip in 1991, I says, "Hey man, I'm PeeWee from the Sinners Motorcycle Club, man. How you doing?" He shakes my hand. It was Ralph, and he said, "I'm Ralph, Hell's Angel, Minneapolis." And about 4 seconds passed, maybe 5, and I looked at him and I said, "Hey Ralph, what do I got to do to be you?" And I had my sinner patch on when I said it, because it wasn't that I didn't like the Sinners anymore, bro. It was that I outgrew them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to make it sound like my head's getting too big, but I outgrew them. I was the guy that was like getting all the designer shirts, with the Sinners down the sleeves, all embroidered, and the embroidered shirts with the patch on the back.
Yeah.
When these guys before didn't even have T-shirts. You know what I mean? All they had was their patches. There's only 10 of them. And then when I came around, my personality, all the people that I knew in my big circle of friends I'm talking about, they all wanted to come around. Then they all wanted to be Sinners all of a sudden when they didn't before. Before you know it, bro, we had like 26 members from 10. And I said, "We need to buy a clubhouse." And I was the one that had to put my name up because nobody could get a loan to buy this house. And then we converted it into a clubhouse. It was like 3 stories high. And it's right across the street from a church. Yeah, so, every Sunday we heard the bells ringing. And it just was, it was like I had a very good time in the Sinners. I love those guys. I still talk to probably about 4 or 5 of them, that, I'm really close to. And they're not Sinners anymore. They're all out of the club. And the Sinners that they have there now, I don't talk to any of them. I don't really have anything to do with them. But I just told them, I said, "Hey, listen, guys, I really in my heart want to be a Hell's Angel, I'm going to leave I'm going to drop out of the club, So I dropped out about right after we came back in 1991 from Humboldt, Iowa. I dropped out, and I started doing my thing with the club. But I had to let the Angels get to know me.
Yeah,
and that's what took so goddamn long, bro. So after 3 years, I finally sold my house. And you got to understand, Staxx, I had to keep that on the down low. Because some other guys would have heard I was moving up there. They would have known what it was for. It would have been shoot 'em up cowboy shit,
Yeah.
So I told no one, bro. Nobody knew. And just what I'm telling you, I know personal friends of mine. They got jacked up by those other guys, and they're like, "Where's your buddy? What's he doing? Tell me you know where he is." Because they heard I went up there, but they couldn't prove it. Now, at the time, I just won 1993. I just won the super heavyweight kickboxing championship, right? So I got the belt, the whole thing. It was peanuts, bro. $10,000, man. Those guys are making like in the beginning 60,000 now, shit like that.
Yeah.
But this is 1993. I get 10 grand and woohoo! I was
Back
rolling.
then, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I just got done doing that, and they called me up and they said, I already moved to Minnesota. I moved there at the end of April. I started prospecting May 4th of 1994. And then they called me up and they said, hey, we need you for a fight. You're going to fight a guy for a world title shot, a guy from Poland. And I was thinking, Staxx, man, how am I going to get from the car to the arena, without getting shot? I mean, it was that serious, because the first year I prospected in 1994,
yeah,
I went to 3 funerals.
Funerals. Were there things going on in the club while you were prospecting? And did anything happen that made you like, damn, do I really want to do this?
I'll tell you, it's funny that you asked me that. The first thing was like some of the little petty shit. You know what I mean? When I say petty shit, is like, can you possibly imagine me saying this to you? Like calling you in and telling you, hey, Bill, there's no way you're ever going to be a Hell's Angel. You just don't have what it takes. And you're standing thinking, what? What did I do? And he lays this on me. I come in here, want a cold beer, and the cooler isn't stacked full of beer. Shows me that you don't have what it takes to be in this club. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Hey, ask me to fight, shoot him up with somebody, get down, do whatever I got to do. And you're whining and pissing to me about some beer in a cooler? I guess I ain't cut out for this,
They take the beer serious then, huh?
Right. And it was just like stupid shit like that, bro. But I'm losing my train of thought here. What'd you just ask me a minute ago?
Things that were happening while you were prospecting.
So why I was prospecting, there was people, one guy, Roger, he got blown up. Put a bomb on his truck. He had a tow truck company, and he got in, turned it, boom, blew his legs off. He lived. He's still in the club.
Wow.
And they put his leg back on. The other one was just like half ripped off. And then they killed Monty. He owned a bike shop in Rockford, Illinois. They shot him up like pretty bad, like 20 times. And then there was another guy named Jack Castle, whose nickname was 4x. He's a little short guy, so 4x4. And he had a really cool chopper with a real long front Springer on it.
The rake.
Yeah, it was old school, bro. Definitely old school. It's on a calendar that Mel Chancey's on. That's 4x's bike. They put it on the calendar. And he got his head shot right off with a M30, like a rifle, and they blew his head off. And those were three funerals that I went to the first year.
Now, what happens when something like that in the club happens and you're a prospect? What happens? Do they tell you like, watch your ass? Do they have a meeting about it? They got meetings, but they don't draw us into them. You gotta like think for yourself, bro. Think outside the box, like, hey, keep your eyes open, look around. And believe me, bro, we were all looking under our cars with mirrors on sticks, for bombs. Yeah. And then Pat's truck, they parked down on the freeway was behind the shop, the bike shop. And next to him was a wood shop where they made cabinets and countertops and shit like that. And if you went to the very back of the yard, then there was a big fence. And if you went over the fence, there was a big green grass hill that you went down. And that was the interstate down there. I think it was like 35, Highway 35. And it was a popular highway. And I think what they did is they pulled up there. They stopped. The guy ran up the hill, jumped over the fence. I couldn't believe it. He had to.
and then unless they handed it to him over the fence, because it was a mercury switch, bomb, when you shake it, as soon as you move the mercury, it sets it off. So I don't think he jumped over the goddamn fence with it.
Or maybe they set it once they got over the fence and set it.
Yeah,
right?
You're right. They probably did that. Like I said, I'm no bomb maker. So they put it on his truck. And, thank God it didn't go off. Pat was inside there, and I'm pretty sure he had his son with him, so.
Did he find it? Did he find it on the truck?
Here's what happened. They dropped next door. They dropped a container, a big garbage container, one of those big, the big ones, like when they're remodeling a house or something, big steel one. And they dropped it on the ground, and when it went boom and it hit the ground, it vibrated the ground, blew the truck up. It blew the truck up. The biggest parts on their stack I seen was the taillight. I mean, that truck was demolished. And I guess a guy came out to smoke a cigarette from the cabinet shop, and he saw the guy running. And when the bomb went off, the percussion knocked him down on his ass. And then he got up, jumped over the fence, ran down. That guy ran over, saw the car, took off. I think it had Illinois plates on it. And, everybody just put two and two together who it was, but Pat was lucky, he was lucky on that one.
Did you ever have any run-ins with any of these people, like the Outlaws or anybody?
Oh yeah,
where you had problems?
I had a run-in. I had a run-in with them. It's in my book too. We had a run-in with them at a Easy Riders show in Chicago. There's about 90 of us there. There was, I don't know, probably 50, 60 of them. And they're walking through there, and they're all like hanging together in a big group, and you could feel the tension. You could cut it in the air with a knife, bro. And what they did was, it was like a little bridge. We were on the second floor where the bars were. Yeah. We were standing up there, and you had to go over this little walkway bridge to get to the bar. Well, they wanted to go to it, but they didn't want to walk through us, So they sent this military support club, veteran something. I don't even remember the name of it. It wasn't Vietnam vets or nothing like that. It was some other vet club or whatever. And they come walking, and they were pretty ballsy the way they were walking. They were kind of like, well, we don't give a shit, and they come walking. So they got like right in the middle of us, and then we just started pounding on them, and it was crazy, bro. I mean, I was kneeling as one guy, and I'm boom, boom, giving it to him in the jawbone. And, I can hear this like hideous gurgling sound. And I turn back and I look. There's another guy who was in the club. He's not in the club anymore, but he's in prison for the rest of his life for a different murder. He's down there sticking this guy. And, the knife had that serrage edge on it.
Yeah,
on the top. So, man, all of a sudden I saw him pull it out of his stomach. Man, he pulled the guy's intestines. Everything came out. And I just kind of looked over and I was like, whew, time to bail.
You're a prospect at this point.
No, I was a member.
You were a member.
I was a member when that happened, yeah. But I just got off of the guy, and I was like, that was a little too much, Dude was just laying there. I was already kicking his ass. And that seemed to be like, oh, man, that seemed to be like a protocol for me, because when I was president of Vegas and that wedding chapel fight happened, I pounded the guy that was the president of Mongols there. I pounded him on the ground, down to the ground, and he was just laying there, bleeding, and a puddle of blood. He wasn't even moving. And one of these cowards that we had in the club, and he is a coward, because every time I seen him fight, he wouldn't come straight up to you, Staxx, and like, hey, you want to get it on, man? Let's go. He would sucker punch you. He was a sucker punching king, and then he'd be on you. It was bullshit. So he runs over. I didn't see it until they put it on the TV, the fight on the TV. Clear as day. They got a green arrow over his head like this,
Yeah.
And it shows him run over, pulls it out. You see him open it, sticks the guy in the back. He's laying on the ground. And what was really fucked up about that, man, was it turned that maybe gross misdemeanor battery into attempted murder. That, like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one
So
decision.
we all got, yeah, right, bro, because the stabbing, that changed the whole thing. And then I guess he stabbed the other guy too. Like I said, I didn't see it until I watched the videos of it. And then I saw him and I was just like, oh, man, why the hell did he have to do that? Especially when the goons were already down. You know, I could see if they were like slashing at people with knives, stick them, but it was nuts. And that really screwed us up. But that, like I just said, it was like almost like habit for me, you know, that people were getting stuck or something happening to them after I already beat them up.
So what was it like, your prospecting? What's it like when you finally get your patch? And can you tell me about the lie detector tests that they made you take?
Yeah. Well, see, after I did all that hanging around, and then I became, like I told you, a prospect May 4th. But before I become a prospect, they made me take that lie detector test. And it was like real serious. Like, hey, come here, I want to talk to you. You know, I come over, I sit down. There's three of them, and Ralph was there, and Ralph and Pat. I forget who the third guy was, to be honest with you. Might have been Rooster or somebody. But we all sat down at the table, and Pat says, well, Charlie, how serious are you about being a Hell's Angel? And I said, I'm very serious. And he said this, and when he said to me, I said to everybody that ever came around the club after I made a member, I said those exact same words that he said to me. You really want to be in this club? You know you may get killed. You may have to kill somebody, or you may go to prison. Are you ready for that? How do you really answer that, Staxx? I mean, how do you answer it? You know, the guys that sit there and do this? Yeah, hell yeah, I'm ready. Those are the guys you just walk away from, bro. Because that guy's too gun-ho. So I didn't really know how to answer that, to be honest with you. So I just kind of looked at him and said, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see when the time comes, you know. I'll react in accordance the way I believe I have to, you know. And he goes, all right, well, we're going to ask you right now to do something. Bro, I was sitting there, I'm thinking, oh, no, man, because, you know, I was like, no, I pounded probably 200 people in the city and state of Wisconsin. I mean, knocking them out left and right. But, you know, never ever went farther than that, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And you're thinking they're going
to. Yeah, you know what I'm
somebody.
thinking. Yeah. They're like, you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm waiting for them to say, we want you to whack this in. And I'm thinking, oof. Because, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, can I do this? And would I do this? And it was a lot of would have, could have's. And he says, all of a sudden, he looks at me real straight up and he goes, we want you to take a lie detector test.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Hey, actually, bro, I was relieved. I was like, whew. Yeah, sure, I'll take a lie detector test. So they set it up. I went over to the guy. He hooked me up to all the machine, the whole thing. And it was at an office. They don't do it like at the clubhouse or nothing. You got to go to
legit. Like a legit. Yeah.
Yeah, to this private eyes office and sit there and then you get all wired up and however they do it. And then, you know, they just sit down and they just ask questions like, you know, you and I are doing right now. And, you know, it's all yes and no questions, right? That's the only way you can answer them. So, you know, he starts off with simple shit like, is your name Charles Goldsmith? Yes. Are you 38 years old? That's how old I was at the time. And I'm like, yes. And he says, to see, you know, how the questions were going to show if I was lying. He says, do you live in the state of Illinois? You know, where I just told you where I grew up. So I said, no, you know, and they were just making sure that And then he told me,
baseline.
right.
Response.
And then he told me to lie on one when he asked me a question like that. And he says, I want you to tell me the opposite so they could see like the line, the lie or what the lie movement of the lines or whatever the hell it is. So then, he started asking me questions like, did you ever testify for the prosecution? And I said, no. And he said, were you ever a cop or a security guard or anything? I was a bouncer at clubs at the door, but I never wore handcuffs or had anybody arrested or called the cops. So I said, no. And then he said, do you want to hurt the Hells Angels and their families in any way? I'm like, no. Then he made me go sit outside for like 15 minutes. And then the guy rearranges all the questions. And you go back in, he asks you the same shit again, but in different sequences just to see if everything lines up. So they said, well, we'll get back to you and we'll let you know what the results are. And we can't let you go any further until that. And then it was, they screwed it up on that show. They said it was Pat that called me. It wasn't, it was Rooster. Rooster called me up and he said, hey, I got some bad news for you. And I said, what's that? He goes, you passed your lie detector test. And I was like, hey, okay. And he goes, yeah. He says, hey, what, are you coming up this weekend? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah. He said, just bring $350 with you because that's what it costs for a lie detector test. I was like, well, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, they make you pay for it.
So I don't even care because we already got busted and we're charged with all this shit. So it's all in the books, But it was funny. I thought, man, I don't want to pay him $350. So what I did is I bartered with him. I went up there and sold like 5 sets of cluster 5-speed cluster that goes in a transmission.
Yeah.
Porsche was making them for Harley Davidson. And I had 2 of the old sinners working at Harley. And I just told them, give me some. And they were throwing the shit in their pants pockets, their lunchbox, down their pants. And they're carrying all that shit out. And then we put it all together. And all you had to do was buy the case, the transmission case. You could buy them anywhere. At any outlet, like Jags, Eckler's, anybody. You could buy an empty transmission case. So you put all that shit in. That's the big money, bro. That was like $1,500 when the case was maybe $300.
Yeah.
So now you got a $2,000 tranny, and you got all the brand new gears, and it's all set up. So I took it up there and I said, hey, you interested in these? And they're like, hell yeah. And then we got on the kick of that, and then it started like to be a every week thing. 5 sets, 10 sets, 10. And the guys were taking them. They wanted 200. So I threw 250 out at them for me to make 50 because I was just that middle guy,
But they would pay you when you would bring them up to the club. They would pay you for them, or they want to just say, all right, give me those. You're the prospect.
They paid me for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they started sending them to other places, like New York, California, South Dakota or North Dakota, wherever they were sending them.
Yeah.
So that made it, right? Federal. Yeah. I mean, we're going over the state lines now. So, but it was going over the state line anyway from Milwaukee to Minnesota. So the guy who was getting them, who's dead now too. That's why, I don't mind throwing his names out. These guys they've been dead for years. His name is Pat. His name was Pat too, but we called him Lightning. That was his nickname. He was cool as hell, and he would always send the gears to wherever we're going. But here's the thing, bro. He worked at Harley, and he started banging one of the broads at Harley, and his wife knew about it. He was trying to get his wife to do a threesome with this chick, and she wasn't having it, right?
Yeah.
And she said, no way, man. I'm not doing it, and you better stop screwing that broad. So I told him, man, bro, don't get yourself in a bind here. And he's like, yeah, I know. So he buys from somebody a frame, a soft tail frame, a hot one, sitting in his garage, and he's got a box of gears. Now I'm living in Minnesota, bro, and he's got a box of gears, 10 sets in there. And on the top it says to Mr. PW, which ain't hard to figure out, bro. Vernon Street, St. Francis, Minnesota. I lived outside of Minneapolis.
Oh, was he going to send them to you? He's going to mail
Yeah, he was sending me a set, and here's where it really got bad, Staxx. On the box it said Carlisle Rubber Company. So Lightning's sister was married to this guy named Danny, and Danny worked at Carlisle Rubber. He says, hey, let me mail this shit for you because we get a discount through UPS, and I could use our boxing and shipping, and you get our discount. So we're like, okay, let's do it. Which is stupid, bro, because, that's records. Yeah. Records. And when there's, where they went, who got them. So what they did is they took, when this whole thing went down, Pat left work with that chick, Lightning did, and he went over to her house and he was banging her. His old lady got busted on a DUI. So she was on a house arrest with an ankle bracelet.
Yeah.
She couldn't leave the house. She knew he was over there. She cut the ankle bracelet off, jumped in the station wagon. She goes flying in there, sees his truck. She rams it. Her shit's all messed up. Steam coming out of the radiator. She drives off. But in the meantime, the police already notified because the ankle bracelet got cut off. They know that,
Yeah.
So they're waiting for her. She pulls in the yard, and they're like, hey. And she's dead too now. Her name is Darla. And they go, hey, Darla, what'd you cut your bracelet off for? And she's crying, she's all upset. She says, my pig husband, he's cheating on me, this and that. No, well, bro, she didn't give a shit about nothing. She was going to nail him good. So they said, well, we're going to have to take you to jail because, you cut the bracelet off and all thing. And she goes, oh, really? Are you going to take him to jail? That box right there is full of stolen Harley transmissions. And that frame over there is stolen. They checked the frame, and sure enough, it was. And then they took the box. And then when they took the box, they did a little investigation. They went to Carlisle Rubber Company. Holy Christ, man. This was going on for years, bro, a couple years. So they estimated like $270,000 worth of gears gone from the factory.
Holy shit.
And they knew everybody. Like if I was getting them, you were getting them.
Because they sent them right for the rubber company.
Right.
Oh,
right. God. They're coming to your house, Staxx. They're coming to my house. They hit us all at the same time. It didn't matter.
At this time, are you a member at this point?
No. At this time, bro, I went through all that shit I just told you of hanging around, lie detector test. That was a prospect for 14 months. And at the end of it, Pat just got some hair up his ass, and he told me, hey, you're just not cutting it, so we're going to send you down the road, sit out a year, come on back and try it again. And everything I ever did, like I told you, the wrestling, kickboxing, I always excelled at whatever I did. And I was thinking, I can't even get into Hell's Angels. I did everything they asked. I moved up there. You know what I mean? My dues are all paid up. I'm not some slouch. I got a new bike, What the hell do you want, man? I've done everything. What do you mean I'm not cutting it? I don't get it. I'm not cutting it. I looked down the table to see if anybody else had, and they're all looking down at the table. Nobody was looking at me, bro. It was like, it's a feeling like I can't even describe to you. Like they didn't want no part of it. It was just Pat. And, after that happened and I left, believe it or not, I walked out of that meeting room with no rocker. I had to hang up my rocker. They gave me back the money I had coming back to me because I paid my dues up, and I walked out the door and I was actually relieved. I felt like I took this huge shit, you know what I mean? And I was just like, whoa, because it was just so much bullshit. And getting back way back to when you said, hey, was there anything I saw that made me think, am I doing the right thing here? I got a good one for you, Staxx. I got hit by a car. And August 28th of, I believe it was, 94. And 1994, August 28th, this kid pulls out of a gas station. He broadsides me. I'm doing about 40. Well, actually, I broadsided him. He pulled right out in front of me. I seen him. I dove off the bike. I thought, let the bike hit him. When the bike hit him, it just disintegrated.
Yeah.
Which I would have been on it. So I hit the ground at 40 miles an hour, bro. No helmet. And I hit the ground, and I broke my pelvis, 3 ribs, my wrist, and my scapula, right? I'm sliding along the ground. I'm laying there. I puncture my lung. I could barely catch my breath. I'm laying there trying to breathe. And Pat pulls up in the truck. He's going home from work because his shop was right down the street. And he pulled up in the truck, Staxx, and he looks out the window and he goes, hey, he had he was, I think he's originally from Missouri or something, but he had that Southern drawl to his voice. Hey, Bubba, you okay? Well, hell no, I'm not okay. I'm fucking laying in the road here. You know what I mean? The bike's all smashed. I can't hardly breathe. I could hear the ambulances coming, but they weren't there yet. And I said, no, I'm not all right, man. I think I punctured my lung. And he says, well, the ambulances are coming. I can hear them. They'll be here shortly. So he says, let me know. Call me tonight. Let me know what's going on with you, all right? I said, all right. He drove away. So, I mean, I just met you, you know what I mean? But if I saw you, I would have stopped and jumped out, ran over Staxx. You okay, man?
Yeah.
I would have stayed there with you till the ambulance got there.
Yeah,
I just met you,
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I was laying there thinking, am I doing the right thing here? I mean, is this part of the brotherhood? He didn't even get out of the truck.
That's wild.
That is wild. And I swear to God, bro, that really, really made me think, is this really what I want? And it was just stupid little shit, all this last minute crap, Well, how much does it cost to get in a club, And then they're like, oh, nothing, nothing. And I'm already prospecting 8-9 months. They tell us, oh, we got a clubhouse tax. You got to pay so much of money, which was it was a lot. I don't want to give the figure out, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
They go, you got to pay that before you brought up for your patch. I was thinking, why did you tell me that fucking 8 months ago? I could have been saving money.
Yeah.
Now in 12 months, you're eligible for a vote. I'm thinking, how am I going to be eligible? I have to pay that money. So I was getting it together. And that's why I did 14 months. Plus, I was at the house for 3 weeks. I couldn't walk, do anything. I had a broken pelvis.
Yeah, so you get into the accident. What happens next?
So they put. I didn't have to come to the clubhouse because I was pretty messed up, bro. I couldn't even sit on a toilet.
Yeah, but you didn't even have your patch anymore, right?
No, I just had a rocker then when that happened. So what they did is they just kind of like on a loan on your house, Staxx, they just put it at the end. You know what I mean? Hey, you want to borrow some money? We're gonna put it at the end. And I was like, at first, I was kind of hoping I got a free month out of this, laying around. But I didn't, bro. They put it on the end.
Yeah.
So, and then when the end came, he told me I wasn't cutting it, and it was crazy. And then I tried to come back after a year, and he told me, he says, him and I didn't have a problem after that because we talk. Him and I would talk cordially, just like you and I are. And he just said, man, Charlie, goes, this one of the guys in the charter, he's got an issue with you or something, and he don't want you back, and it's got to be unanimous to get voted back in, And I said, well, man, let me go in the backyard with this guy, mix it up. And he goes, I can't let you pound the shit out of this guy. He's a member. And I was like, oh, okay, man. So we played this game, bro, where like I'd see them and they would just nod their heads to me. And, you know, and deep down inside, it bothered me because I was like, man, I want to be one of you guys so bad, you know, and I got like, so I got a lot of shit done on my house. And my house was a brand new house that was put out there. So I never got to finish it. And I was falling behind on my house payments because believe me, bro, when they tell you it's your family, the job, and in the club, it's bullshit. It's the club, your family, and piss on your job, you know?
Club comes first. It doesn't
Right.
happen to
And I lost 4 jobs. I lost 4 jobs, Staxx. No bullshit. In the first year. I was kind of, hey, man, I got to let you go. You missed too much work. Because they tell you, we're leaving Friday morning for Chicago. We're leaving for San Francisco, you know, on the bikes, man. So, you know, we're blasting off. Just to give you an example, I had, when I crashed my bike, it was brand new. When they took it to the Harley dealer, they said, man, you changed the speedometer on this thing? For May, June, July, August 28th, I had 19,000 miles on it.
Wow.
Right. So, you know, I was just like, oh, man, this is just nuts.
Yeah, but so if you lost your job, you don't, how are you getting money to pay for gas and to go on these trips? And how do you
It was hard, bro. My wife worked and my daughter went to work. She graduated. She was graduating the year I left Wisconsin, which was really shitty, man, because, you know, I uprooted her, pulled her out of the school that she should have graduated with her class, you know, and the people she knew.
Yeah.
But I pulled her out of there and I took her to Minnesota. So she went to a school there for like the last 3-4 months, whatever it was. And she got her diploma. And then she went to work over where my wife was working at the time, my ex-wife. And they worked together. So actually they're making the money to make the house payments. And when I could work, I work, you know what I mean? And then I lose a job and I go try to find another one. It was crazy. Not until they threw me out. When I get back to the time I told you they let me go, I took that huge shit, man, walked out the door like, man, I'm done with this. I was relieved. I went back. I worked on my house. I finished it. I poured the concrete steps. I did everything that you can imagine, caught up my house payments, got a job, and I kept the goddamn job, you know? And I worked there for 3 years or something like that. And every year I couldn't come back because that one guy hated me. And then that one guy got in a bad bike accident and he had some head injuries to him and they let him go. And when they let him go, I figured, oh, well, now he's gone, you know. But I didn't want to like go knocking on the door. And,
the day after, right?
Yeah, right. And
hey,
so I didn't go around, Staxx. I really didn't like jump on that wagon. And I was in Sturgis. I had my own motorcycle shop for like 19 years. And Pat came out there and one of his bikes was messed up. So we brought it to the shop and my mechanics worked on it. And he said, hey, come on over to the campgrounds where I'm at. He had a big like motor bus, you know. And he said, come over, you know. He said, let's wrap. You and me, let's talk. So we went over. It was a good talk, you know. We had a good talk. And he said, I want you to come back, PeeWee. Come on back. And I said, okay. And he says, so when we get back and we have church, we'll have you come to church and then you can stand up in front of everybody and tell them your intentions, you know? I said, okay. Well, in the meantime, before that even happened, Staxx, because I was getting that runaround, I was still running around, going down to Chicago, hanging out with Mel Chansey all the time. And me and Mel running around, being goofy, you know, beating on people in bars and stuff like that, you know, the right people.
Yeah.
And we were still doing that thing. And I wasn't even part of the club, bro, but I was doing it because Mel is like my blood brother, you know?
Yeah.
Like the blood brother because he's really close to me. We talk every day. He just hit me up today. I'm going to go visit him. And
yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh, he is. And he just hit me up today and yeah, he cracks me up. So Mel was trying to, you know, he was trying to get me to go to Chicago, to come there, transfer there. But you always got to go back to where you start to get permission to go somewhere else. So I still had to go in front of that room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the meantime, Mel catches a case. They send him to prison. So that kind of like dropped the bucket right there. You know what I mean? Those other guys wouldn't have fought for me like Mel would have. And I was like, now what? And then I ran into one of the Frisco guys, and I always got along great with Frisco, San Francisco.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Why don't you come out here, man?" I says, "Yeah." I was worried about was I going to make it out there, or because the cost of living is like living in New York. So I says, "So you guys would?" So I went to their church, to their meeting, and they all said, "Hey, we'll take you, man." They all agreed on it. They said,
at this point, did you have a bottom rocker?
No, I was nobody. I was nothing. I was nothing. So I said, okay. I said, let me go to this meeting thing with Pat, and I'll tell him that I want to move on and move from Minnesota to San Francisco. And it was kind of a weird thing, Staxx, because I showed up that Thursday for their church, and we're waiting. No Pat. He never shows up. So they come on and they tell me, "Hey, Pat's not here. He don't feel good. So we're just going to go hanging out and hit some titty bars and stuff. So you want to go with us, you can. But other than that, it's best if you just come back next week." I'm thinking, okay. So in the meantime, Ralph already quit. The big guy I told you about?
Yeah.
Ralph, he already quit. He did like 5 years and he quit. And that's within 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. So this is like 1999, actually. So I went over to his house and I said, "Man, what do you think is going on?" He told me, "Listen, dude, Pat's going to screw you some way. Get the hell out of there." And I said, "Man, I'm trying to save us some money. I got to take this trip. I had a cargo van. I put my motorcycle in it, all my shit. And it sounds pretty selfish of me, and it was. My two kids were there, and my ex-wife at the time. She was my wife at that time, but I told them, "Hey, I'm going to go to Frisco. I'm going to do this thing. Let me do it on my own because it was too hard with the family." And she was taking care of the household pretty much on her own,
Yeah.
And I think back on it now, what a huge mistake it was, and I shouldn't have done it because it mentally really, really fucked up her head, man. Bad. It did. I didn't know, she had like a nervous breakdown on it, and it was just me being selfish, man. I didn't think about anybody else. It was just like, man, I'm going to be a Hell's Angel. And then later I seen the consequences of how bad it was. And it was a downfall in my life at that time. But, when I got to Frisco, well, first of all, let me get back to telling you. So the next, Ralph says, "Get out of here, man." And he hands me $2,000. I said, "What's this for?" And he goes, "Here." I says, "Oh, I don't know. I could pay you back." He goes, "I don't want you to pay me. I'm giving it to you. Get out of here." He was going to give me this big gold bracelet, but naturally, not even handcuffs fit my wrist, I got some big wrist.
Yeah.
So he says, "Here, just take the $2,000 and go to California and live your dream. Do what you want to do, Pee-wee. Live out your dream. And if it ain't what you want, then, you always know that you did it." And I said, "Okay, man." So the next week comes, I go to church again. You believe this, bro? Pat doesn't show again. Yeah, again.
Is this the time he's cooperating?
No. He wasn't cooperating then. And then I thought, son of a bitch. But they called me in the room anyway, so that was good. And I went in the room and they said, "You want to come back?" And I said, "Yeah." It was like in October. And they said, "When do you want to start?" I said, "How about the first of the year, a fresh start, And they said, "All right." And I said, "But I want to transfer. I want to go to Frisco." And they just were like, "What?" A couple of the guys in the back were like this. Hey, you got a place for me to stay when I come there, right? I said, you got it, man. So they go, we got to think about this. We're going to call Frisco right now and ask them. So they call Frisco, and Frisco goes, hell yeah, we want them. We're taking them. So he goes, I got to call Pat, ask Pat. He asked Pat. Pat says, let him go. So it was off to San Francisco I went, you know. And my son at the time, Brad, he rode with me in the van, and it was sad. I had to put him on the plane to fly him back. And the saddest part about it was like the way I put it in my book, Staxx, I put it like, you know, putting him on the plane, flying back, it was like sending the last personal thing of mine, you know, of my family away. It was like, shoot, go, you know. And that's how I felt, man. I mean, I could feel that, man. My heart was broke, you know. And I put him on the plane. He flew back. And then I started doing they made me hang around for like 2 months, 3 months, 2 months, I think it was.
Before you got your prospect patch.
Right. Then I got my prospect patch. And then, you know, when I made member there, it meant a lot because they're the second charter ever of Hell's Angels, you know. So that's a big deal, bro. You know,
yeah.
Like you're like history right there.
Birdo,
all those guys,
one of the first ones, right?
Which one?
What one was one of the first ones?
San Bernardino, Birdo.
Yeah,
they were first, and then Frisco, and that's why you've seen all the Birdo guys and the Frisco guys on the stage in Altamont. You know.
Yeah.
So, the night they called me in, it was pretty cool. You know, they called me up into the room and they had me like a little flustered, bro. You know, I'm standing there and you always got to watch what you say, man. Cause you know, sometimes you slip of the tongue, say something stupid, man, and boom, you're gone. And so I got up there and I thought I was getting like reamed out for something or something I did. And I came up there and they were yelling about something, and it's so long ago that I really, honest to God, can't remember exactly what it was about. And they were yelling, and one guy stands up, and it was Tony, he's out of the club now, but I'm still great friends with him. He's still my brother, you know. And we talk, and Tony says to me, "Hey, what would you have told that guy?" They were talking about me talking to this other guy that they sent down the road, and they didn't want me to talk to him. And he goes, "What could you say to that guy that you shouldn't have? You know, being a Hell's Angel." Well, I stood there for a minute, and I'm thinking, "Oh, what does he mean, being a Hell's Angel?" Oh, maybe he's thinking, or he's saying to me,
like if you were one,
right? Yeah. Right. Or when I become one. So that's what I'm thinking. And I said, well, you know, and I was kind of like dumbfounded. I was like, you know, trying to think of how to say it. And he looks at me again, real serious. And he goes, "You're a Hell's Angel. What the hell would you say?" And I looked at him again, like, the fuck are you saying, man? And all of a sudden he reaches behind me, pulls out a patch, shoves it in my face, and he goes, "Congratulations, now you're in," you know? And it felt like, you know, like almost like winning state championship wrestling again, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And it was funny, bro, because the guy who gave me the vest to put on, he was a big guy, but he wasn't as big as me, you know? I got a big 60-inch chest, you know? So I go to put on his vest, and it's like up about here. You know, I couldn't put it together unless I had like straps, but it was right here. Bro, I didn't give a shit. I was doing a fat guy in a little coat, you know. I was just happy I was one. And they're like, "Come on, we're going to go party." So we all jumped on the bikes and we went down to the Cats Club, which is like a famous club in San Francisco. And we went down there and we partied there all night, and shit, I think I left there about 4:00 in the morning or some shit like that. And then we went to the clubhouse, and I lived in the back of the clubhouse. I had an apartment in the back, so I didn't have far to go, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling. And to make you laugh, on one of the things, there was a brother from Long Island, big guy, and they call him Big Rod, right? He was as big as me, bro. And just from, I guess, that California lingo, where we all, hey bro, we're always saying bro. So he came there for a funeral, and I was a prospect. I had to drive him to this funeral. And I get out of the van. I said, hey, bro, you want anything to drink or eat? And he goes, hey, quit calling me fucking bro. I ain't your bro. And I said, well, it's just the way I talk, man. And he goes, well, you ain't a member and you ain't my bro. So don't call me that. So, yeah, so we go to do something else. And I walked over, and I remember when we got there, he was still sitting like in the van, but everybody was like jumping out and going to the up to where the casket was and everything. It was a funeral we were going to, and this guy got killed on a motorcycle, another member, and I walked over to the van and I says, hey, bro, everybody's walking up there. He goes, I told you not to call me, bro. and I was thinking to myself, well, me and this big boy got to fight. We're going to fight, but that's just the way it is. I wasn't doing it disrespectfully. It's just the way I talk.
Yeah.
So I'm at the clubhouse. You're going to die, man. I just made member, right? The phone rings. I pick it up. Frisco. And that's how they always answer the phones, whatever state they were, right? Or charter. So I pick up the phone. I go, Frisco. He goes, yeah, this is Big Rod from Long Island. I'm calling up there. I need to talk to someone. And I forget who he asked to talk to. And I said, this is PeeWee, bro. He goes, hey. And I go, hey, before you start bitching, I made member yesterday, or tonight. That's what it was, which was the next day, actually. But I said, I made member last night. And he goes, oh, congratulations, brother. The guy was a trip, man.
That's fun.
Yeah, and then him and I got along great after that. But yeah, he wasn't on the bro thing, But yeah, I used to do like stupid shit. I'm only laughing, bro, because now I think back on it. Some of the shit was pretty funny. They have another guy. His name was Stevie. He got kicked out of the club, and he was a real dickhead, and he came to Frisco, and he got a big tattoo on his forearm. I can't remember what the fuck it was, but one of the friends of Frisco, a big bodybuilder guy, comes walking over, and here we go again with that California lingo, okay? And he walks over and he goes, hey, man, did you see my new tattoo? And he shows it to him. And I'm standing on the other side of him. And he looks at Stevie's arm, and Stevie's a member. He was from Indiana. And he looks at his arm, and the dude goes, that thing's fucking sick. He walks away. And Stevie starts doing this. Like, what the hell did he mean by that? Because he went, that's sick. And he walked away. And I said, yeah, that just means, it just means it's like sick. It's badass, man, It's cool. He digs your tattoo, And he goes, you guys got like weird lingo up here in California. And I said, yeah, so I says like, and believe me, bro, I was still a prospect when I said this to him. But yeah, he was freaked out. I says, so like a lot of times when we're joking around and shit, because it's Frisco, don't like freak out, because this is just like a joke thing. Like if I said, yeah, instead of I yell, hey, Stevie, and I yell, hey, faggot, it's just a joke thing, He goes, you better call me a faggot. I just started laughing. I thought I'd try to get away with it, bro, because I would have called him that all day.
How much of a difference was it hanging out up in Minneapolis compared to
day and night, bro, day and night. Day and night, they were like, I wouldn't get like no 45-minute lectures about stocking a cooler full of beer or anything like that. Matter of fact, it was funny. They were saying, hey, man, our cooler's taking a shit. And we had like a small cooler. It was like the size of a refrigerator, and we're stacking that in there. We had a huge clubhouse. It was huge, bro. It was a classic clubhouse. It had members' bikes in the walls, embedded in the walls, like in shrines, with all their stuff around it. It was really cool, bro. I mean, it would almost be like a museum for you to go in and see. That's how cool it was. And lose my train of thought here again. What was I saying?
I was asking you about the difference between you and Minneapolis and.
Oh yeah, so these guys, they didn't play any of that the cooler games, right? So getting back to the cooler, they said, "Hey, PeeWee, man, our cooler's taking a shit. If you see one cheap or something, let us know, because we're gonna have to buy a new cooler or some shit." So I come around the corner down the street on my bike. So you got to go like up the street on Tennessee Street. That's where the clubhouse is. So you go up to the top of the hill and you turn right. There's like a little, I don't want to say 7-Eleven, but that's what it's like, a 7-Eleven. But it was a little grocery store. And it was being remodeled inside. They were gutting the store, and all the shit was tarped out in front of it, right? So I turn the corner and I'm looking at it, and I see this big, like probably 8 feet by 10 high, big old cooler, big giant one. And I'm thinking, oh shit, we got to have that. So I went down to the clubhouse, man, and I got a couple 4-wheel dollies that we had in the back room. I went over and I had to lay that thing on its side, bro. And I had to fucking roll it down the hill. And I'm telling you, this hill was steep. I think when it got away from me, and it almost did twice. And I was trying to, it's taking off. And it weighed so much. There was no way I could have stopped it from flipping over if it was going to flip.
Yeah.
That's how heavy it was. But I got it down to the end of the road. And we had a big garage door. I opened it up, wheeled it in, took the old cooler out, put the new one in, let it sit for a while. I put all the beer in it. All the shit, it was stacked. They all came in. We're like, where the hell did that come from? And one of the guys in the club worked for Budweiser. So anytime, he would go into a store, Staxx, and they say, this beer's outdated. You know what I mean? Well, really, is beer outdated, bro? No. Guys can have beer. Yeah, the guys have beer in the garage for 2-3 years. You're drinking it.
Yeah.
You don't even know. So this shit just like last month, it expired. But it doesn't expire. It's just, they can't leave it in the store. So he would always bring, man, we had so much Budweiser and that shit. We never paid for beer, never. And that guy that worked for Budweiser, his name was Anthony. And that sick bastard, he ended up killing his 2 kids, his wife and himself.
What?
Yeah. Suicidal. He killed them first and then he shot himself.
You're in San Francisco. Where do you go from there, and how long do you stay there? And was there any big events that happened in your life when this was happening? And did you go back to Minnesota, and what was it like when you went back to Minnesota?
Believe this, bro. I went back to Minnesota when Pat got busted on his federal case. They gave him 20 years, and he had a going away party. And I went to his going away party, and I seen there was people, all kinds of people. Other clubs were there. Club I love dearly, the Hell for Sterols. They're big in the Midwest. They're a big 1% club. And they started way back in like 62.
Yeah,
and those guys are still my friends to this day. I love them. They're great. They're a true brotherhood. And they were there. I see one of their members give Pat a nice gold ring and, say, hey, man, it's bad this is happening to you. And we're all there hanging out with him. And Pat looks at me and he says, Charlie, can you ever forgive me for what I did to you? Running me down the road. But now I was a Hell's Angel, right? California one. And I said, Well, you know, Pat, I already forgave you because I came to your going away party. Obviously, I'm not holding a grudge, or I wouldn't have came.